Well, welcome to winter in Sydney. The cold weather is upon us, I guess. Anyway, in today's video, I just want to do an actual vlog. I want to vlog about my wedding on the weekend. I tried going handheld for the whole day, so that was interesting. But let's just say I'll never do it again, which leads me to the other topics, which is I want to talk about my Crane 2 versus the new gimbal I just bought, which is the DJI RS2. I call it the RSI2. I'll talk about that, and also the VideoMic NTG and why that's not really a good fit for weddings either. Alright, let's talk about it, shall we? Oh good, you're still here after that amazing intro. Anyway, it's raining here in Sydney, and a wedding photographer or videographer will always say it's not so bad if it's raining on your wedding day. And you know what? It is kind of true, because look at this. This is what you get. You get no people. My favourite thing to do if it's on the north side here in Sydney is actually go to the beach. You go to Balmoral Beach and there's some cover, and it's normally so busy that it's useless. Like any busy city at the beach is freaking useless. But on a rainy day, you get some dream shots. And if you're really lucky, the rain might stop in patches, so sometimes you just have to wait in the fucking car, bitch. What I'm trying to say is, even if you have just half hour allocated for a photo shoot in the middle of the day, sometimes risk it, go for it. You might be lucky, wait 5 minutes in the car, the rain stops, you get your awesome purple patch, we'll call it, and out you go. So what should we talk about first? How about what I'm vlogging on? I'm on the A7S III and my old favourite, the 28mm f2 with active stab enabled, and I've got my umbrella so we can walk around a little bit, but handheld and walking around doesn't really work, and that's kind of the theme that I wanted to talk about for last week's wedding. So I had a chance to film a wedding handheld, and the reason is I was shooting for someone else. It was a different company, and when the email came through I saw who the other shooter was, and I remember that he liked to shoot handheld, so I sent off an email to him saying, hey bro, you're going to go handheld on this wedding? And he goes, yep. So I'm like, oh okay, cool. Try out my new small rig cage and that side handle that I mentioned in another video. And you know, it's a bit wanky that appeals to filmmakers, like, oh, I can go light and nimble and handheld. But as it turns out, it doesn't really help the client in any way. I think handheld, you can argue, oh, it gives me some creative freedom. But like I'll explain, with a little gimbal, you're getting creative freedom, but you're getting stabilization as well. So it just doesn't make sense to me. Like some of my shots, I'll show some of my shots. When you're standing and shooting, looks fine. But when you are walking, and you do need to walk, it's a wedding, like, you know, you move around, then we're back to shaky cam. And I guess if you're a good editor, shaky cam doesn't matter, but I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 edits a month if you're doing handheld. Otherwise I'd go crazy. What if you're doing that 2 weddings a weekend and you're doing it handheld and you're trying to pump through edits and you're spending most of your time looking through, you know, acceptable footage, even if you want that energetic vibe that a handheld video could give you. So yeah, handheld at the wedding, like that was fun, I guess. But I was looking at my mate and I'm thinking, oh man, you're nuts, because he does this all the time. And I found most of the time I was missing my gimbal, because apart from being light and nimble, what are the benefits? Can you say it's like creative freedom? Oh, it's handheld. I was looking at my shots and thinking, you know, with the gimbal I'd feel the same way. I'd just feel light and nimble and creative, but when we walk, that'll also look good. So yeah, I mean, if you see some of the examples, I don't know if I can show their faces because it's not my wedding company, but I'll show a little bit of examples anyway. But yeah, he is nuts, but he is awesome, and that was a fun day. And I am thankful I tried it out. But it'll take some convincing to ever do handheld again. I think I'll just reserve handheld for my own stuff. Or if you really can't fit a gimbal into your travel bags, don't know why you wouldn't be able to fit it in, but If you're just stuck with your A7S III, then handheld's fine, I guess, as long as you're not running around with it. Which leads me to my next point. So yeah, gimbals. Anyway, I have gear acquiring syndrome, like most filmmakers, I guess. But I have a more advanced problem. I have this thing where I always gear up for this imaginary, impossible film that I'm going to be working on. When I become a famous director, I'm always thinking, well, gonna need good sound. So by the way, I've bought a Zoom F6 and an NT-G5, and I've got a video plan for that. So like and subscribe for that, hey? But anyway, there was this pop-up store in my local shops in Macquarie Mall. Hang on, I've got an itchy nose. And of course I couldn't pass that up. A little bit of space on my credit card. Wasn't maxed out for once. So I walk in there, and what I really should have got was a new drone, because mine sucks, it's the Mavic Air. I walk out of there with a new gimbal, and I already have a Crane 2, but I walk out of there with the DJI RS2. And I've even filmed a few weddings on it, and I gotta say, it's messed up a couple of weddings, because it's just so different. The way they approach their stabilization seems polar opposite to Crane 2, and I'll explain what I mean by it. But first, the positives about the DJI, the RSI2 I call it. The main one obviously can handle a shitload more payload, which is going to come in handy, bigger lens with the freaking filters and maybe even some sound equipment attached, like some wireless receiving devices and all that stuff. I'll probably need for filmmaking on my own skits and my own films. The Dream web series. So yeah, better like and subscribe now before I get too famous, now that I've got this stuff and I'm all geared up for the imaginary. I don't know, I'll be like a solo shooter too, solo sound. I'll have to make some friends so they can carry the sound at least for me. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, this gimbal. So I thought, well, I've got a new gimbal, let's take it to weddings. And it's actually fucked up a few weddings. Okay, so this is going to be hard to explain, but I'll try. So the difference between the DJI and the Crane 2, not the Crane 2S, which is probably what I should have bought, and my old Crane 2 is, DJI overthinks their freaking algorithm. So basically what was happening was it would drift. Not drift in what their support crew would say, but it just drifts in general. Like, there's a reset button, you double tap the trigger and it resets. Which sounds cool, but then the Crane 2 doesn't have that and doesn't need that. It doesn't drift. So what happens? What's the result of that? I'll be like filming, and sometimes I talk to the bride or the bridal party, set up my frame, whatever, and then make a few jokes. Hey, look at each other, all that kind of, dorky, cliche stuff. And then I'll look back at my screen, and she has lifted. She's probably, she might be there, or she might be there, and there's too much headroom. And I'm thinking, oh crap, so double tap, back it goes. And that's not a big deal. Like, especially if you're fine tuning some of your own stuff and you want the nice cinematic movements that the DJI RSI2 provides. But in a wedding, you don't always have, you want everything to flow. For the same reason I don't want to do handheld. I want one big long take sometimes. It's easier to edit, right? And you may have some footage in there that's great. Maybe after you thought you had your shot and you said, oh, kiss. Yeah, that's boring, everyone kisses. But then they do something amazing. And on the Crane 2, I'd always get that extra shot right after what I thought. Let it roll, let it become natural. But on this freaking RS2, man, always double tapping, ruining my own shots. It would center in left and right, pan, and then tilt. I tried explaining it to the support crew, and straight away I could tell from their language it was the old, oh, have you tried turning it on and off kind of answers, Let me just change hands, I'm getting sore. Ooh. I'm just on a little mini tripod for today. I thought it'd be easier to hold, and arms were getting sore already. So waffling on a bit, but you know, it's worth explaining. So I tried to explain this to DJI, and I filled out a ticket and everything, and I said, hey, this is drifting. And they misunderstood me because there must have been an issue with other people where it actually does drift like that, right? So here's the funny response I got. And I'm so used to this coming from 3D. I come from a 3D background. As an animator though, effects animator. So we still had smarter people running R&D, and you're using the software and you have a problem, you know, you'd fill out some kind of support. So I'm used to this answer, oh man. So they go, sorry, this isn't drift, what you're experiencing. And that's it, they just left it, because it didn't fit their description of the word drift. I'm like, all right, here we go. Tried to explain to them, I said, hey, on my Crane 2, if I point it somewhere, it goes there. I point it back to the center where I come from, it goes back to the center. But on the RS2, if I point somewhere, and the longer you do this, the longer it will be true. Let's just say it like that. And then go back to the center. The RS2 never returns to the center, because like I tried to fumbly explain before, is that maybe in the algorithms, the end goal isn't what it's working back from, it's working forwards. So it'll go around, whatever, and then by the time I go back to the center, let's say it's off by like that much. And now apparently according to them, you double tap, that should be fine. And it's weird, I researched this online and no one talks about it. I guess if you're a DJI user, you're just used to that. But I'm a Crane 2 user. So anyway, that went nowhere. Cut a long story short. I just put the... You know what, I didn't. They answered one more time. And thank God they did that, because it was a bit more helpful. They said, increase your deadband and try to tweak some smoothness settings. And I tried all that, tried a few YouTubes and did some tutorials, and it's better, but it's still there. Like, now it just takes longer to become offset because the deadband is increased, which is, deadband means, for those who don't know, how much I move, left and right say, for example, for the pan motor anyway, before the gimbal actually starts to move. So it's got a bit of like margin, 5% movement, then it'll start to kick in. And that helped, especially with the tilting one, because that was too sensitive. And so I tried a couple more weddings, but still wasn't great. Right, let's change hands again. Anyway, I'm not happy with how I explain this, but I couldn't be stuffed doing another vid, so I'm gonna upload it anyway. And hopefully you don't hate the sound of my voice so much you can't put up with it, and just bear with me. So my final conclusion is, I won't sell the RS2, I'll keep that for that amazing, impossible film dream that's coming up soon, when I become a famous one-man band director, producer, screenwriter, and maybe bring it to some real estate gigs, don't know. Hang on, itchy nose again. But for weddings, that Crane 2, I'm just going to use the Crane 2 for weddings. That, and also my daughter dropped it, so it's kind of been scuffed up, so I can't sell it anyway. Like I might as well use it for weddings and chuck it in the bag and not worry about getting it scratched or scuffed. Because I was going to sell, when I bought the RS2, I was going to sell the freaking Crane 2 and make some money back towards it. Because, we're not rich videographers. But she dropped it that very day. Well, not really dropped it, but kicked it over on the road, inside the door. It was hiding inside the door, and she goes, "Oh, I'll shut the door for you." I'm like, "No!" Slams the door, drops my new 35mm lens, which was fine, just got a scratched hood, and scratched up the gimbal. But now I'm thinking, you know what? That's fine. Now it's my battle gimbal, and it's lighter, and it's trustworthy, and sure, because it's lighter, it might not be as stable, because the heavier it is, I guess the more it gets rid of those little micro jitters. But, I'm not taking it to a wedding anymore. RS2 can just sit there and wait for the perfect gig. Okay, and last thing I want to talk about is, I bought that NTG again. If you follow me, I spoke about that in the last video, and I thought, okay, cool, let's bring it to the wedding. I don't know why I do that. If it's new, it's better than something else just because it's new. So I popped it on, and I had it set for dialogue, which was 12 it's out of 15. So 12 out of 15 on the little spinning dialogue thing, volume control at the back. And then you can put your camera on 1 and that's supposed to not use the preamps of the camera, that it's the most cleanest possible. Anyway, that's fine, but even in the room with the boys for preps, when they would cheer, like it'd peak out, and I don't know why I didn't even notice, because on the A7S III you do get those red bars, and I didn't even notice that. Like if it was peaking for ages I may have noticed, but it was just the odd peak, just enough to ruin these audio takes if we were to use the audio of those videos. And I don't know why I make mistakes still. Been doing this for 7 years, but occasionally you make some freaking mistakes. And it was a Jewish wedding, and they did the big entry dance when they come into the reception. That's called the hora, I think. And I had my mic set to dialogue, so I fucked up that whole. It sounds like an old telephone at a an old mobile phone at a concert. It's like, I'm like, shit. Well, there's 15 minutes of awesome dance footage. Handheld, by the way, so that's kind of crazy. And I think I'll go handheld for dancing footage. That's fine. Like, I've already been doing that. But yeah, that VideoMic NTG, what it has is very, very low dynamic range. Very sensitive mic, and it clips way too quickly, and you can't use it unless you always put the safety channel on. And that's a pain in the bum, right? So every time you think you're going to save some time by going straight to cam, putting the audio straight through to cam. But nah, there'll be one more step. You're always going to have the safety channel, because it'll just keep clipping out, even if I was not retarded and had my mic level set for that big loud entrance. That would still have peaked. And then if I did it for the correct volume in dynamic range for loudness, then it would have been too quiet for the other side, you know, on the other end of the scale. So basically it's just not a very robust mic for weddings. Oh, my arm is killing me. I'm going to change to this side again. Oof. So what you want is a mic like the Video Micro, which is what I'm using now. So, I mean, haven't used it for a vlog, so does it sound fine? I hope so, because I'm going to upload this anyway. And I definitely use this for weddings, and I have been. I never experienced that problem. You know, you look at the noise floor when you're in, I'm in Premiere Pro still, so I'm using Audition, and the signal looks discouraging, but the sound is fine. And I've done brides reading letters and stuff with this microphone, the Video Micro, and it's good, loud enough. And for some reason, maybe it's just tuned to my brain, I remember to turn down the camera a bit for the reception, and it's fine. The dynamic range of this just doesn't seem to peak out as much, doesn't seem to go crazy. That NTG is just too sensitive. And so once again, I don't like it, but I'm not going to sell this one. I think I'll just keep it for interviews. It's perfect for interviews. Because before I go, I'm about to go, don't worry. Thanks for sticking around this long. You know, my imaginary, impossible, big budget film that I'm going to be doing soon, right? I needed sound for that. So I've got a Zoom F6 and NTG5. It's going to be brilliant. And the Zoom F6 hasn't even turned up yet. It's like, it's been 12 days, I'm still waiting. I have been doing tests, and the reason why I bought that is I was watching somebody online on YouTube. I'll put the link down below if I remember him. He put a NTG, VideoMic NTG, into a Deity HD-TX, and it sounded brilliant. So I thought, oh, I don't need to buy a Zoom F6 and an NTG5 anymore. Let's save some money, that'll do. I stupidly bought the HD-TX by itself, and you definitely need the receiver, so that was embarrassing. So went back and got the receiver. They were nice enough to break open a kit for me and sell me that, and that is good. I don't know where I'm going with this. Oh yeah, I thought that would be enough to do filmmaking, because then you get a wireless boom. If you're lost on any of these, I'll leave a description of what I'm talking about down below. And anyway, in the process of booming it wirelessly, you do lose a little bit of quality. So even if I have the NTG5 and I put that through to the HD-TX, and I'll make a separate video on this, so I'll just quickly talk about it now just to wrap up this vlog. Didn't sound, okay, so this is the point. Okay, I promise there's a point. the NTG5 plugged into the HDTX with the wireless receiver into the A7S III still didn't sound as good as the VideoMic NTG into the HDTX. Probably because you do need to power that mic and it needs to have a preamp, you know, step in between. And that's where the Zoom F6 comes in. I wanted the Mix Pre 3, but like I said, I spent all my money on this freaking RS2, so me being impatient, because my imaginary movie is coming soon, right? Needed to gear up now. But now I have this NTG5 just sitting there. We'll do a test with it when the Zoom F6 comes along. So make sure you like and subscribe for that. I can't even talk. I think I'm cold, my mouth is numb and my hands are now shaking because of me holding this thing too long. Anyway, thanks for staying around. I love you for that. You're so lovely. And I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Yes. Oh yeah, with the Zoom F6 and the NTG5, I've got a funny skit planned for that. So I'm telling you now, just to warn you, if you see some random video just turn up that makes no sense at all, no intro, I'm doing it for Star Now. It's this funny, what is it? It's kind of like a marketplace for talent that is not, is it unsolicited? Or is it, what's the word? You know, they don't have agents. So that's why it's called Star Now. You put your photo up there, do a bit of a bio, and you know, you're an actor or a director or something. I've been on there for like 10 years and no one's ever called me for shit. So I've got an idea when I get my sound. I'm gonna make a video just for Star Now. I'm a sound guy. Think, what's his name? The sound guy, Kevin. What's his last name? See, I can't think when I'm in front of the camera. All right, regardless, I don't care, see? Just don't give a shit anymore. That's why this channel is now called The Jaded Filmmaker, because I am starting to definitely just not give a shit anymore. But look out for that, eh? Hopefully we'll see you on the next video. Alright, thanks for watching. Get the hell on now, hey?